I don't know if it's a timing and it'll
Huh.
come on in a minute or two. We saw you for about
Need to
1
see.
second.
Mr. Gardner, do we need to work through a couple of IT issues before we get started?
Yes, please.
Okay. Candace, do you mind to go back off?
No, sir, no problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Yes.
And we're
Yes.
I only started 5 minutes late today, so I'm getting better. Good morning. We're back on the record for day 2 of case number 2021-00103. Yesterday, we took the witnesses of the applicant East Kentucky Power, interveners Attorney General, intervener Nucor, and then today, I believe, I think it's Mr. Gardner, App Harvest. It's your opportunity. So at your leisure, please call your witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me. Good morning. We would like to call Sudine Kelly, please.
Ms. Kelly, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Sudine Kelly, and my work address is 1099 New York Avenue, Northwest, Washington, D.C.
Okay. And Mr. Gardner, you may ask.
Thank you, sir. For whom do you work, Ms. Kelly?
I'm a partner in the law firm of Jenner and Block.
Did you prepare and file written testimony in this matter?
I did.
Did you sponsor certain responses to requests for information that have been filed in this case?
I did.
And do you have in front of you a copy of your testimony and your responses to the information?
I do.
And do you have any changes or testimony to your responses or requests for information?
No, I don't.
Thank you, Chairman Chandler. This witness is available for cross-examination.
All right. Thank you. Mr. West, do you have any questions for Ms. Kelly?
We don't.
Okay. Mr. Kurtz, I'm glad to see that you were able to get it figured out this morning. Do you have any questions for Ms. Kelly?
Thank you, Chairman. No questions.
Okay. Ms. Vinsel?
Yes, staff does have a few questions. Good morning, Ms. Kelly.
Good morning. Thank you very much for accommodating my schedule. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there last evening.
Oh, totally understandable. That's fine. We really just have a few questions for you. And these questions, acknowledging that the settlement has occurred and the parties have signed, these are some additional questions that we have that we're not acknowledging the settlement, but there's some information regarding your testimony we want to get some clarity on.
Sure.
In regards to your testimony about the Cooper station,
Yes.
other than the capacity factor, can you explain what forms the basis of your statement that the Cooper station is not cost effective?
Well, my testimony was that it is not used and useful, and the basis for that was the capacity factor.
Okay, thank you. That answered the question.
Thank you.
In regard to the testimony about the demand response that App Harvest would like to take advantage of, and again acknowledging that the settlement agreement says that EKPC and Fleming Mason and EKPC and App Harvest will work in good faith to resolve that. To the best of your knowledge, did App Harvest have any discussions with Fleming Mason, the co-op, or with EKPC regarding a demand response prior to filing this EKPC filing this application?
I don't know the answer to that question. It may be that Mr. Gardner knows, but I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay. Well, my next question also is along that line in regards to the testimony about the commercial and industrial lighting, DSM. Again, acknowledging that the parties have agreed to work together to develop an agri-tech tariff. But to the best of your knowledge, did App Harvest have a discussion with Fleming Mason or EKPC regarding, for example, a special contract to get a commercial industrial lighting rate?
I don't know the answer to your question.
Okay. Staff has nothing further.
Vice Chair.
Nothing.
Thank you.
Commissioner Matthews, do you have any questions?
I don't have any.
All right. I have just a couple, Ms. Kelly. And I guess I take from your testimony and the data request responses that it's almost a singular focus on the capacity factor of the Cooper station as to your determination of used and useful. Is that correct?
Yes, that's a fair summary.
Okay. So I guess I just don't necessarily understand the focus on the production of energy exclusively on whether or not Cooper is used and useful. I mean, there is a value of capacity, particularly given East Kentucky's membership in PJM, right?
As I understand it, that EKPC receives a capacity payment from PJM for the capacity.
Okay. But even in addition to that, I mean, would you believe it would be appropriate for a utility to have enough capacity to meet its own native demand?
Of course, I think it's important for a utility to have the adequate capacity. However, when you look at the usage that this plant has, the question becomes whether this capacity is necessary.
Right, but if we all agree that East Kentucky has to have enough capacity to serve its native demand, then isn't it a question of whether this capacity is cost effective as compared to replacement capacity?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and did you perform any studies or a comparison between the going forward stay open cost of Cooper, for instance, versus replacement generation facilities?
I did not.
Okay. And then would you believe that it would be appropriate if, again, we agree that a unit like Cooper was needed in order to have enough capacity to meet internal demand, that if that's the case, and it's cheaper to then still buy energy on an economic basis from the market than it is to self-schedule and run Cooper, that would be appropriate for a utility to do?
Yes, I agree with you.
Okay. All right, those are all the questions I have, Ms. Kelly. Thank you very much. Mr. Sanford, do you have any cross-examination for Ms. Kelly?
Just I think 2 questions, hopefully. Good morning, Ms. Kelly. Let me ask first off, are you familiar with the stipulation settlement agreement that's been filed in this proceeding?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and are you supportive of that?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Your Honor. That's all the questions I have.
Okay. Mr. Gardner, do you have any redirect for Ms. Kelly?
I have no redirect.
Okay. Ms. Vinsel, is there any reason Ms. Kelly cannot be excused?
No, she may be excused.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Kelly.
Thank you very much.
All right. So We discussed I guess we'll do a little housekeeping here. We discussed the motions that we have left. I think we have one petition for confidentiality, maybe a couple
I
of
think we have a
petitions for
couple.
confidentiality. And then we will, try to get an order out in, short order on that. We'll go ahead and do the stipulation admonishment, and then we'll move on to just a short discussion on the settlement questions, and do a short discussion on the briefings and the rest of the procedural schedule. Does anybody have anything else before we move on to those? Okay. So if all the council that participated in the settlement negotiations or stipulation negotiations would please make sure they turn on their microphone and raise their right hand. All right. First, were you aware of and did you have an opportunity to participate in all of the negotiations that resulted in the settlement agreement?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you voluntarily sign the settlement agreement, and do you fully support each and every provision contained therein?
Yes.
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 Are there any provisions in the settlement agreement that you do not understand, object to, or take issue with?
No.
Was any consideration of any kind offered, or were any promises made other than what is expressly set forth in the settlement agreement to induce you to negotiate and sign the settlement agreement?
No.
Are you aware of any reason why the commission should not adopt and approve this agreement in its entirety?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sanford, you seemed interested yesterday in filing a brief, and so it may be best to work backwards, given one, what we know the statutory, the suspension period is, and two, that East Kentucky, and I think maybe it's even reflected in the stipulation, I don't know, has requested and attempt to try to get an order by October the 1st for billing purposes for October the 1st.
Sure.
So the first question I have is with briefs, if you'd like to file a brief, if we closed evidence on the 18th, would you be able to file an initial simultaneous brief on the 25th?
Yes, we could do that.
Okay.
And Your Honor, we only anticipate needing to file one brief. I don't think response briefs would be necessary in this proceeding.
Okay, so I would just ask, does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. West, is that, okay. So, let's do this. Let me grab my calendar here.
The first, I bet you.
All right, so
Already.
August the 25th seems to be a Wednesday. So, working back, Mr. Sanford, I think you're the only person that you're the only attorney that'll be servicing these data requests. If we get the data requests, if staff can get the data requests out by this Friday, would you be able to respond to those by August the 18th?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, so the initial work, the requests will be the requests, that's what I get for moving down to a different seat. The requests will be out on the 6th and be responded to by the 18th, by the end of the day, with simultaneous briefs on the 25th of August. Does anybody have a concern with that? All right. And if you couldn't tell, Mr. Sanford, I think staff and the commission have questions about the RUS letter, the regulatory asset, and how that relates to, I think, the final order, I'm going to get it wrong, 2019-146, 145, whatever it is, on the major expenses. And I would ask if you would also like to include that in your brief. I think it would be welcomed.
Be happy to, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, is there anything else? All right. If nothing else, I appreciate it, and everybody have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.